We are back on our Subaru game today, you guys. So I've been doing some stuff to the Corolla because I had some parts sitting around for it. There's more showing up for it next week, but I just wanted to kind of clear all that stuff out of here. With the Subaru, you guys will see we have a turbo we have our turbo in there. The hot side for our Borg Warner showed up. Now Borg Warner sent that hot side over and it's a prototype version. So it's a V-band hot side for their new SXR line of turbo. I just wanted to get it mocked up. The up pipe does not have the correct exhaust flange on it right now, so we are gonna have to cut that one off and weld on the Borg Warner one. But now that we have the hot side of the turbo in, we can actually start doing the downpipe and figuring out the exhaust a little bit on the 2.5RS. Additionally, I did get some more sensors in for the car. The IAT sensor, the coolant temp sensor, and the oil temp sensor, so we can get all those hooked up. That's probably what we're gonna start with today. And some more prep. I just wanna try to knock out as much of this as I physically can today to get the car mechanically as far as possible. We need to find a spot for the fuel filter. We can start running fuel line. There's a ton of stuff we can do. So let's just get right off the rip and start wiring in the rest of the connectors that I got for the engine, such as IAT, coolant temp, oil temp, and then we'll probably jump over to the exhaust manifold stuff. IAT sensor all wired up. I just kind of shoved it right here for right now. IAT. We've got coolant temp right down there hiding. And we've also got oil temp right down there all wired up. Now I was just out of curiosity, I did start making the downpipe right there. As you guys can see, I literally just tack welded a 45 degree to the V-band just to see how we're looking on clearance. And on the harness side, it is a little close, but we got about 2 inches of gap there. This part of the harness, we are gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do with it. Subaru has that there for some weird reason, but overall, our entire turbo system fits beautifully in this spot. We are gonna have to cut off the V-band on that up pipe for the Borg Warner one, which we'll probably do next. This took a little while to get sorted, but we've got things sorted. We went back and forth on turbo placement for this thing for quite a while. Originally, we were gonna have the outlet of the turbo go under the manifold, and to be honest, it was such a tight fit, it wasn't fitting all that well. We were able to get the outlet to actually come out on the bottom and wrap up, and I think this works better because this shoots the piping straight into this hole there, which can then drop down and go to the front mount there. The downpipe fits perfectly right there. This harness will get secured up here, so that way it's out of the way of the downpipe. We have a nice air gap between the downpipe and the engine harness. Remember, the downpipe is getting Cerakoted, and it will have a heat sock on it. Same with the hot side of the turbo, and it'll have a turbo blanket. The wastegate, I got that all set up and pushed down there, so the wastegate is quite literally on the bottom of the car. We have the up pipe flange fully welded and back purged for the turbo. Same thing with the wastegate, because that wastegate from RCM was originally set up for like a 50 mil or a like 45 mil from tile. So I cut that off, put the 38 mil gate on there, and it is quite literally perfect down there. One thing that is a slight issue is the fuel line. I have to get an 8AN banjo fuel line to be able to snake it between the turbo and the manifold there. We do still have an air gap between the turbo and the intake manifold, so we are still fine on that aspect as well. One thing to keep in mind when you're doing a lot of like custom stuff like this or a lot of aftermarket parts, they don't always play nice together. Like for example, an ETS rotated kit will not fit with an AMS manifold off the shelf. That's another one that people have tried in the past that just doesn't work. So if you go to do something that's a little bit more custom, just keep in mind that sometimes you do need to get a little creative to make everything work. So I am actually gonna go home, place an order at Ace Race for some raw material for us to be able to build the downpipe, maybe start on the intercooler piping, do the intake, all of that type of stuff to get it knocked out. It's Saturday today, so I'm not gonna be able to pick that up till Monday morning. Tomorrow I have to replace a chassis harness in that blue WRX because that car had its BIU fried, its ECU fried, and its chassis harness all fried. So we're fingers crossed that this is the last thing that's corrupted on it. So let's go get this raw material ordered. It's gonna be real quick for you guys. I'm gonna go get this raw material ordered. I'm gonna knock out that hatch, and then we're gonna jump right back on this thing. It is now early Monday afternoon. As you guys can see on the table, we have gone and picked up a ton of raw materials for the Subaru. We have everything here to take care of the oiling for the turbo. That's gonna be feed and drain. We've got the stuff to build the intake. We've got some downpipe stuff. We got some stuff for our dry sump. We've got a good plethora of goodies all right here. So because I'm gonna have to take the turbo off to do the feed and the drains and all that stuff, what I think we should start with is the intake, because we have the turbo in the position that it's going to be in. So without having to take because the turbo's obviously gonna have to come off the car for me to build the drain line and to get down to the feed line. I was gonna use the factory hard line for the feed line, but to be honest, it just doesn't fit all that well with this turbo right here. So let's go ahead and actually just jump to the intake. We're gonna get a coupler on here. We're gonna mock up our tube with a filter on it and kind of gauge where it's all going to go. Once we get all that kind of sorted, we're gonna have to cut the pipe, bead roll it, get it all kind of situated. So let's build an intake. First thing we need is a coupler on here to be able to mock up where everything's gonna go. So there's our coupler, easy enough. Filter would go here, and then tube like that. That's actually not bad. Okay, I'm gonna need a Sharpie though, so right here to start with. And right here, we'll do about right there. Not bad, baby! On the pipe, you'll see that nice little bead. On the inside of it, you'll see the indentation, so that'll keep the couplers on the pipe. So with it bead rolled, let's go actually put some clamps on, tighten everything up, and see how well this fits. test fit with the hood just to make sure that it fits with that intake right there. And since I got to repaint the hood, it's really not a big deal. Okay, so right there, and there's a big ass hole right here. It freaking clears, man. Let's go. And it lines up perfectly with that. So this is pretty sweet. This was totally accidental. So the guys at, I still have to repaint the hood, so don't judge it, but the guys at Apollo Motorsports sent me these hood vents for GC8, and they actually feed air into the engine. Now, funny enough, the intake we just made lines up literally perfect with that. So we're definitely gonna be running that, at least this side. I don't know if we're gonna run the other side, or if we're gonna use OEM on that side, but that's actually really cool how that just lines up perfectly right with our intake. So it does clear the hood, so the position it's in right now is totally perfect. I think I'm a lot happier with this turbo orientation because having the intake here, A, it clears the hood, B, it'll also let this pipe freely come out this way. So I think I'm pretty happy with this. So with the intake knocked out, we're gonna jump over to probably oil feed and oil, no brother. What we're gonna do is jump over to a dry sump line real quick because I just got the fittings on to make sure that I can route everything where I want it to. So we're gonna go off of that block breather fitting right down there to this guy right here. Once we do that line, we're gonna jump back over to the turbo for the feed and the drain because I wanna make sure that I have, for the most part, everything in this area kind of situated for where it needs to go before I start trying to run oil lines and everything in that spot. So with that being a -12 line, it's pretty big. It is 12 AN line, and this is going to go from the crankcase to the dry sump as the breather. And this is essentially what controls how much vacuum the engine will be seeing. So if we wanted more or less vacuum, we would alter line size and kind of go from there. I'm definitely gonna have to order more 12 AN, but you know, this will at least get us started for the meantime. So one thing I've learned is the bigger the AM line, the more it sucks to build it. But you know what? That is a-okay, because we can do it. Let's first start by lining this up. Now if we get everything on here, this will actually get secured down with an Adele clamp. I'm gonna have to get one that's big enough, but that is the only vacuum line that we have going from the engine to an external source. So now that we've got the intake built, and it's like sturdy too, that's nice. Now that the intake is built, what we need to do is take the turbo back out so we can build the oil drain and the oil feed. The oil feed, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna have to lose that hard line. I've got an IAG version that we can use. For the drain, we're gonna have to build a -10 drain for this thing, which won't be bad. We have a -10 AN adapter fitting on the, dude, that's nice. That's a nice intake right there. I like this. We're gonna have to do a -10 adapter from the turbo down to the head, which we already have. Oil feed for the turbo, I think we're actually gonna do that first for this adapter fitting. On Borg Warners, they use 1/4" NPT. So we have a 1/4" NPT to 8 AN, or to 4 AN line adapter for our. So tomorrow we're gonna work on the downpipe. Just because I have the dogs with me today, they hate the welder whenever the welder is running. So I'm gonna do everything I can now to get everything ready. So let's actually put in that adapter fitting right here. 1/4" NPT to 4 AN. Maybe I should thread in there rather nicely. You're not trying to seat the fitting all the way into the turbo. We're just trying to get it tight so it won't leak. So if you start to feel it getting real tight, stop, because you will snap the fitting. Right there, I'm not going anything past that. That feels nice and tight in there. We're Gucci. All right, turbo's gonna come out. I have an adapter flange for the bottom of the turbo, which we're gonna bolt on. Before we put the turbo back in, we're gonna go ahead and start our oil drain line, and we'll replace our oil feed line here. I had to run to the store to get some bolts because the thread pitch on this is 3/8 by 16, and I did not have any of those. In theory, this should bolt right on now. Oh yeah, that'll be fun. Now, we've got a 10 AN oil drain coming off of our turbo, so that way we can actually run the oil drain to where it's gotta go. Pretty neat. What I think I also might do is tighten down the rest of these turbo flanges while we're here. So I've got the oil drain kind of mocked up. I also moved one of the support brackets here for clearance on the turbo side. So, you know, there's a lot of test fitting and making sure everything works and this and that. It's a lot of back and forth. So, come on, feed down there. There we go. Fine, I gotta get the shot for you guys. So, right there is about where it looks like we want that. It looks like that'll give some flex to it. Oil drain line is perfect. That took like an hour to an hour and a half to get that thing perfect, but it's not hitting anything up top. It's all downhill transition. It's smooth, no kinks, going right to the cylinder head there. I guess you can kind of see it from down here. Right there, drains into the head. the exception of a little bit of material I'm waiting on, we have our turbo kit pretty much all done. The dump tube's done, the downpipe for the most part's done. It needs to be fully welded, but my welding hood is acting up where it's like dim, not dim, dim, not dim, dim, not dim. I put a couple new batteries in it. I don't know what's going on, so I'm gonna go grab a new one tomorrow, because if you've never welded, if you're like mid-weld and you're looking straight at where you're welding and you're feeding wire in, and then your mask undims, even for like a split second, you move. And it's blinding. I only got one set of eyes. I already wear contacts. I don't want to damage them anymore, so I'm gonna get a new welding hood tomorrow. I actually have to take the Corolla to go get a new windshield tomorrow too, because I got smoked by a boulder on the freeway. But let me show you the downpipe, the dump tube, kind of what we're looking at. I need to order a pie cut, because to be honest, I know the level of my fabrication and welding capabilities and skills, and I am not the greatest at making pie cuts. So you can call me a little sissy if you want. I pre-order all my pie cuts. So what? Looking under the car down here, you guys can see we've got our downpipe, how it kind of does a swoopy job. Wraps around, comes down. We've got this flex bellow here. You want some flex in your downpipe, because this is going to be bolted up to the transmission as well. And while the turbo is bolted to the engine, we still want this to be able to flex as it needs to. So I need that little pie I was talking about. It's gonna have to go right here on the end just to kick this up a little bit. And then it'll just be a straight piece that comes out to here with a V-band. I've got some 304 stainless steel sheet. It's 1/8 inch thick. I'll probably double stack it and make my bracket for the downpipe. Our dump tube, it just comes off of the wastegate, does like pretty much a full 180, and then just points in the same direction as the downpipe, and this is just gonna dump to the atmosphere. Now once this downpipe is in place, this is going to come up a little bit, and it is going to open up that air gap between the downpipe and the dump tube. One big thing to keep in mind is that this does all clear the axle. That is one thing that if you don't have axles in and you're trying to make a whole turbo kit and everything like that, make sure you do keep note of where the axle is, just so that way you're able to get your axle in or out, and that you're not going to be burning up your axle. So this is pretty sweet. RCM exhaust manifold coming up to a modified RCM up pipe, coming out to my own downpipe, my own dump tubes. We did our own oil drain up there. We have our own oil feeds. Everything up top is looking awesome. Super happy with how the intake came out and how it lines up with that hood vent also. Oil feed's done. This has taken a couple days longer than I wanted it to, but I'm super happy with how everything has come out. Even clearance wise back here on the downpipe to our engine harness, transmission. This is gonna get relocated up like I mentioned earlier. I'm just super happy with how this has come out. Later this week, like I mentioned, I'm making a trip down to ETS to go buy a front mount intercooler for a GD, which I believe a GD front mount intercooler will fit this with some modification. Once we have a front mount in, we can start doing intercooler piping. Once intercooler piping is done, and the cat back's in, I need a drive shaft before I can do the cat back. We're just gonna do I think we're gonna do a DSS carbon fiber drive shaft in here. Like I said, no corners cut type of build. I want this to be, with this being my last EJ powered car, I really want to make it freaking perfect, dude. So with that, that's all I got for you guys on this one. I'm gonna place an order for some more raw material tonight that I know we're gonna be needing. I'll probably order some of the aluminum for the intercooler piping as well. So the next video or 2 videos may end up being a Corolla video, which is fine with me. We got a lot of Corolla stuff going on. I think my intercooler for that car just got dropped off today anyway. So with that, that's all I got for you guys on this one. If you liked the video, if you're hyped with the progress on how our turbo kit has come out for the Subaru, go ahead, hit that like button, turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver, cyan, but the color of the day today is blue. I don't know why, it should always be blue. The Subaru's blue, the Corolla's blue, the other Subaru's a different shade of blue. I just realized I primarily owned blue cars. But with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. So peace out, homies.